Lexie Hall straight up exposing DeWanna Bonner and how she felt about this whole situation, how low down, dirty, and nasty DeWanna Bonner was. Now we got Lexie Hall stepping up and letting it be known we're not rocking with DeWanna, but that scammer, that low down, dirty scammer who is receiving payments all while quitting and refusing to show up to work. We're not rocking with her. Point blank, period. All while making Glamour magazine.
DeWanna Bonner is trying to fix the problems caused by Lexie Hull's shocking new information. In an interview that wasn't edited, Hull talked about what happened behind closed doors when Bonner quit the Indiana Fever in the middle of the season. Trust me when I say that the details she is giving paint a picture of betrayal that goes much deeper than anyone could have imagined. Paul was honest about how young players like Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston were caught off guard when Bonner quit without warning. You're about to learn something about this story that will make you question everything you thought you knew. Here are some words to show your support for Lexie's decision to speak out. Please leave them below. Let's go.
All right, so if y'all didn't know, Lexie Hall ended up winning Woman of the Year in the Glamour magazine. Shout out to her, man. They call her, I think, Ride or Die Star. That is a beautiful description of this woman, man, because we know what she was doing with the Deadpool eyes. Come on, man, with the black eyed peas going on. With one of those villains from, what's her name? Doctor Strange movie. The first one? Yeah, we know what was going on, man. She was out there black-eyed up and getting it done. That's what I'm talking about, Lexie. That's how you get it done.
When Paul and Bonner talk about her early days on the team, what she says makes a big difference. You can really hear the excitement in her voice as she talks about how happy she was that they finally got a championship-winning senior to join their young team. Hull wasn't just happy. She was thrilled to learn from someone who had won everything. With Caitlin Clark in charge, the Fever had been building something amazing. But they knew they needed the experience to take the next step.
Now, we had Lexie Hall on Glamour magazine, and here it says the Indiana Fever guard took plenty of hits for her team in their run for the playoffs, but her loyalties extend beyond Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Hey, we saw Lexie Hall out there with two black eyes, diving for loose balls, all types of stuff. She was out there looking crazy. She was out there looking crazy, y'all. She was looking crazy out there. Listen, Lexie Hall earned her stripes here.
When Bonner came in, the changing room changed completely. Paul talks about how the younger players paid close attention to everything their new friend said. This person had been through the tough parts of a winning season. Someone who understood how to win when the stakes were high. Bonner seemed like the perfect person to look up to for Hull. Clark and the rest of the young core could learn how to be winners from this person. Hull stresses how rare this chance was for Indiana. Most teams with young players who have a lot of promise never get the chance to sign a proven winner when she is at her best. The Fever players thought they had found gold. Clark was a superstar. Boston and Mitchell were up-and-coming stars. And now they had a title veteran to tie it all together. Paul thought this was the thing that was missing that would make the heat go up in the end.
We're going to get right to the part where she is addressing this nonsense with DeWanna Bonner, who just quit on the team, stole a max contract, robbed a bank in broad day, and skipped on to her girlfriend in Phoenix. Like, that's just the truth of what happened. And at the end of the day, there's nobody who suffered more from this whole DeWanna Bonner situation than Lexie Hall in all actuality. Lexie Hall earned her stripes here with the Indiana Fever.
Those early practice sessions.
When Hull was practicing early in the morning, he had never felt more energetic. The young players paid close attention to every tip Bonner gave them. They looked at how she played in different game situations. During team meetings, they saw how she led others. Paul was sure she was seeing the start of something amazing, a championship caliber team with the right mix of young and old players.
I was super excited. You hear how excited Lexie was? Oh my goodness, because finally there's a player in my position that I can look up to that has won in the league and has all these accomplishments and knows what it takes. And I can learn something from her. Now, this sounds familiar. Don't we remember Kelsey Mitchell also running up the stairs saying, I have the best veteran in the world? I mean, come on, fam. You literally had people yelling your praise at the top of their lungs. And you couldn't give him a goodbye? You couldn't give him a reason you wanted to?
But as the season went on, Hull's joy turned to confusion. The team spirit, which looked so good in the first few weeks, started to show some small cracks. Hull noticed changes in Bonner's behavior that he couldn't explain. The experienced player, who seemed really interested in teaching the younger players, started to pull away in ways that made Hull wonder what was going on. Though the signals were there, Hull and her friends couldn't quite make sense of them right now. It looked like Bonner's level of focus changed every day. At some training, she would be fully focused on teaching the younger players, just as Hull had planned. On some days, she seemed distant, like her mind was somewhere else. Hull says she felt weird, but she was sure that a warrior like Bonner would help her get over whatever was bothering her.
About Bonner's decision to leave the Fever, it seemed to me that there was still lingering hurt and confusion. Now, come on, man. We know exactly what was going on. Of course, it was a lot of hurt and confusion. I actually thought something happened to her or her family. I'm like, man, prayers up for her family, prayers up for her. And all along, it was just her pouting. Come on, man. Of course, we was confused and hurt. I mean, all that time, all that money we spent on her. I mean, granted, she didn't get the whole $200,000, but we could have put that towards another veteran. Yeah, man, she pissed off the Indiana Fever world with that.
Because Paul was so honest about those first few months. What happened next feels like a complete breach of trust. The young guard, who was eager to learn from the best, was about to learn a hard lesson about how some veterans do business. Hull thought he was setting up a run for the title, but he was being pushed from the inside. When Hull talks about that day, it's clear that she's upset. The team showed up for practice like every other day, but right away there was a difference. The players asked each other where Bonner was as they walked around the locker room. No one knew the answers. There was a terrible silence among the crew when Hull told them that their senior boss had disappeared without a trace.
She randomly leaves, and we're all kind of like, what happened? We were never given an explanation, and that's what's whack. That's what's whack, because you was in the locker room with them every single day. Y'all was building bonds, talking about now you know. You walked into Cambridge Fieldhouse doing all of this. Oh my gosh, I've never seen all of this. I've never had a presentation like this done for me. And then you quit on them without even talking to your teammates. That was whack.
During the first practice without Bonner, the coaching team tried to keep things running normally. Everyone looked confused, and Hull could see it. The players kept their eyes on the door, waiting for Bonner to show up late with an excuse. No one ever gave that answer. Hull said that the drill felt empty, like everyone was just going through the motions while their minds were full of questions that no one could answer. Hull talks about how the younger players started to doubt themselves right away. After practice, Caitlin Clark went up to Hull and asked if she had done something to bother Bonner. The same fears were shared by Alia Boston. They had looked up to Bonner as a coach, but now these young players were wondering if they had upset her in some way. Hull remembers seeing her friends blame themselves for things they had no control over.
Come on, man. Caitlin talked about how great she was as a leader. Her voice in the locker room was so necessary. Like, fam, you had everybody talking highly of you, and you just up and leave. Crazy work.
The hardest times for Hull were after Bonner went missing. She talks about how the team kept waiting for an official answer. Maybe Bonner had a problem with a family member. There could have been a health problem they didn't know about. People on Hull's team were still hoping that their more experienced partner would come back and give a good reason for being absent. The reason never came, though. Hull says she feels completely let down by the person she trusted to lead them. The coaching team had to deal with the big problem in the room at some point, but even they were surprised by how Bonner handled her leaving. Paul also says that they lost more than one star. It was about not respecting someone who had promised to help build their championship mentality. Paul's anger peaks when she talks about how they haven't been talking to each other. A simple talk could have kept a lot of people from getting confused and hurt. She would rather have her friends guess what they did wrong, according to Bonner. She said it was the most unprofessional thing she had ever seen an experienced player do.
Just a big three here in Indiana. It was a core four. It was the core four. So the way she was thrown to the back burner for DeWanna Bonner, she was affected by DeWanna Bonner being here more than anybody. And she was still willing to embrace DeWanna Bonner with open arms and welcome her as a leader. So for her to get thrown to the back burner time and time again, I actually do want to hear how she felt about all of this, because her playing time was affected. But there was like a month where Lexie Hall couldn't crack more than 15 minutes in a game.
The ripple effects had an effect on the whole company. Hull talks about how the front office tried to solve their roster problem. Others on the team who had been getting along with Bonner had to change how they played all of a sudden. Overnight, the whole team relationship changed in a way that no one had expected. In his speech, Hull stresses that Bonner's way of leaving taught them exactly what not to do as pros. The veteran, who was meant to act like a champion, instead showed his fellow soldiers how to leave their friends when things got tough. Since Paul told the story, it makes sense why other players in the league were so loud about how Bonner handled the situation. The young people who had looked to Bonner for leadership were left to figure out what to do next without any direction from the person who had offered to help them through tough times. Hull's talk makes it sound like there's more going on than just a mid-season departure. The Fever players thought they were dealing with a simple change in the lineup, but Hull's point of view shows that they were actually the targets of a long-term plan to recruit players.
Phoenix Mercury head coach Nate Tibbetts. He just exposed the fact that he played a part of the DeWanna Bonner plan to scam the Indiana Fever.
Bonner was becoming more and more important to the young players in Indiana. Hull talks about how they told her about their hopes and dreams. At team meals, they told each other personal stories. They put their hopes in her to help them win a title together. While Hull and her friends became close, Phoenix was secretly up to something very different. Hull talks about how dumb everyone was in the beginning. The Fever players thought Bonner was totally committed to their goal. They thought she was working to help Caitlin Clark reach her full potential. During their talks, Hull remembers that Bonner was excited about what they could do together. But those talks happened while Phoenix scouts were already getting ready for Bonner's return.
She had no intentions on playing out her full contract with the Indiana Fever. This was a heist. This was a robbery. This was a flat-out scam from the beginning.
Soon after, Hull felt sick when he saw proof that had been tampered with. She found out that the Phoenix staff had been talking about Bonner's full season hiring like it was normal. Hull remembers feeling sick to her stomach when she saw how casually Mercury workers talked about grabbing their veteran boss. The famous ticket moment showed that the whole process was well thought out. Hull talks about how the Fever's strategy was different from Phoenix's shady methods. Indiana put together their team by hiring honest people and building real relationships. They thought it was important to make the team a place where players wanted to stay and grow together. Hull thought Bonner liked the way she was acting, but she was wrong. How long Phoenix had been planning this move is clear from the timing of Bonner's hiring. Today, Hull knows that Bonner's loyalty to Indiana was never real. The senior was just going through the motions while Phoenix talked to people. Hull remembers being completely lied to by someone she trusted to help her grow.
Nate Tibbetts literally exposes how he's been planning to get DeWanna Bonner, how they orchestrated this whole thing. Let's get right into it, man. DeWanna Bonner should be under investigation. The Phoenix Mercury should be under investigation for tampering. You should be under investigation for tampering with the player while they're on another roster. Yes, you should. Yes, you should.
Every day, Hull's faith in experienced leadership was abused. She would ask Bonner for help with her game, but Bonner would already be making plans for her escape. Hull told Bonner that she wanted to win tournaments in Indiana, but Bonner knew she would die before her dreams could come true. It hurts even more for Hull to remember all of those honest conversations. The Fever's honest approach to building teams was being harmed by hiring tactics they didn't know about. Hull talks about how her group thinks things should be done. It was their belief that other teams were honest as well. Some groups will do anything to get what they want. Hull learned the hard way.
Wanting her to end her run, however, it's going to end, right? I mean, what a story for her to come back after playing here for 10 years. And you never know for sure how it's going to work, right? But we knew that we needed to add another veteran to our group for these situations.
Wait a second, I just realized you did say Alyssa Thomas played a part.
This planned deception feels even worse because Hull is so eager to learn from Bonner. Phoenix was using the young guard who wanted to win a title as a pawn in their long-term plan. When Hull was planning her future with Bonner as a guide, she finds out that Phoenix was already making plans to steal them. When Hull talks about the first few weeks after Bonner left, she starts to cry. At first, everyone was shocked very hard. The players looked confused as they walked around the facility, but Hull says that as they thought about what had happened, something amazing started to happen. The players who were still in the game started to work together in ways they had never done before.
With the team's injuries, Hull says Bonner's exit solidified the group's resolve to have one another's backs. To have no explanation was really challenging, but I think that helped us grow closer together because we're like, all right, this is us. We're here. We're going to support each other. We're loving each other. We're going to fight for each other. We're not going to leave. We're in this together.
As soon as Bonner left, Caitlin Clark became a better boss. Paul talks about how Clark started to bring the team together more often. She set up extra times to shoot. Clark made it clear that she wasn't going to let Bonner's leaving wipe out everything they had worked for. Hull shows how Clark went from being a rising star to a real floor general who expected everyone around her to be perfect. This was the time when Aaliyah Hull was most inspired by Boston's growth. Early in the season, the rookie forward relied on Bonner's advice a lot. But after Bonner left, Hull saw Boston find her own voice in the locker room. Boston started teaching younger players by herself. No one thought she would be ready to take on responsibilities at such a young age. During these hard times, Hull's own authority grew. Her friends kept blaming themselves for Bonner's leaving, so she had to comfort them. Hull set up team dinners to keep everyone busy. Kids knew they hadn't done anything wrong because she told them so. Hull became the person who held everyone together emotionally.
Now, they also touched on the topic of teams, players, and people being jealous of the Indiana Fever, fam. But check this out. It says, does Hull feel, as many Fever fans do, that her team has a target on their back from the rest of the league? For sure. She ended up saying, I think there's a level of jealousy when it comes to the Fever, just because of the media attention and the fans that have shown up for us ever since Caitlin got.
The way the team played on the court was a great example of their new attitude. In Hull's stories, they played games with more energy than ever before. They talked to each other better. They fought more to get the loose balls. Early in the season, the Fever were likely to lose games that they started to win. Hull saw that the group was getting stronger. Hull talks about how Bonner's betrayal made the other players feel like they were related in a way that couldn't be broken. They knew that they could depend on each other. Every win felt better because they got it without help from someone who had given up on them. Hull talks about how proud they were that they were able to do well without Bonner's help.
We've heard people and players and teams talking in their locker room about, we can't let the Fever win. Oh my goodness. Hold on. Come here, Lexie. Let me talk to you. When you say people, is officiating in there? Oh my goodness. Does that have to deal with officiating? I just want to know. I'm just asking a question. Hey, I just have to know, fam. Does that have to deal with officiating? Have you heard some referees say, we can't let the Fever win? Who are you talking about when you say?
Players who hadn't been getting much time before became very important. Arie McDonald took on a bigger role and did even better than everyone thought he would. Chloe Bai brought much-needed energy to the team from the bench. Hull remembers seeing her friends grow into roles they didn't think they could have. The mood in the changing room got a lot better when Bonner left. Hull talks about how much lighter everything seemed. During drill, the players laughed more. They were more open about their support for each other's work. Paul knew that Bonner's appearance had made things tense, but they didn't know it at the time.
Team's resolve, man. This team showed a lot of heart and resolve. And I'm glad DeWanna Bonner wasn't able to be a part of it. I'm glad she got smoked and swept in the final.
Paul's feelings about Bonner's leaving have changed a lot over time. She now thinks of that as the time when their team really came together. The core group that came together after that terrible time has shown that they can handle anything as a group. Hull is sure they can win the title in 2026 because they have already passed their toughest test as a team. Hull's desire to tell it like it is shows what kind of teammate she is. Bonner was busy making plans to get away, and Hull was making real connections with players like Caitlin Clark. She kept her friends from getting blamed when they didn't deserve it. Hull's honesty shows how Bonner's greed hurt young players who followed her advice. The young crew of the Fever has shown that they don't need veterans who quit when things get bad. Without any help from Bonner, Clark, Boston, Hull, and Mitchell have shown championship-level heart. They know how to handle problems on their own that most teams never have to deal with. Hull's bravery in telling this story shows that Indiana has a lot of chances to win the title in 2026. Remember to tell Lexie how proud you are that she broke her silence in the comments part below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on all alerts so you never miss anything.